Hello and welcome. I hope you've all been doing great. It's been so warm everywhere, so I hope you're staying cool, but at least having a good time because it is summer after all. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about 6 fragrances that have been highly hyped within the fragrance community. And of course, they are all 2024 releases. And I finally had the chance to get my hands on them. And today I'm ready to give you a detailed review of each fragrance. As always, I will start by sharing the notes, and then I'm going to go into the details around the olfactory journey, and then I will speak to the feel of the fragrance. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and sometimes you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and we're going to go ahead and start with the House of Oud Guilty Crush. If I had to use a phrase to describe this fragrance, I would say it is stunningly beautiful. So let's talk more about it. So you know when you open a lipstick and that scent that you get from the lipstick, that is the key, not necessarily note, but accord in this fragrance. And that lipstick scent is not something that I consider to be mass appealing. And if you've ever tried a lipstick scent type of fragrance, I'm sure you would agree. This is definitely a fragrance that you want to try before you decide to pick it up. But let's talk a little bit more about that. So that lipstick note is quite strong. And when I first sniffed the fragrance for the first time, I thought, wow, that lipstick note is really, really strong. I wonder if this is going to be liked by most, if this is going to be one of those mixed reviews type of fragrances. And what I can tell you is that once you spray this fragrance on skin, it's like a different level. I'm pretty sure that I had talked to you before about Frederic Malle's Lipstick Rose, which is a fragrance that I absolutely love and that I plan to have in my collection forever. But if you take Frederic Malle's Lipstick Rose, in case you're familiar with it. So if you're into that lipstick scent type of note and you were wondering, okay, Arahi, but what does it compare to? Or, is it one of those lipstick notes that's, pretty dry or pretty like intense and it takes over and dominates all of the notes in the fragrance? No, that is not the case with this one. So what I find, in case you do have Frederic Malle or you've tried Frederic Malle's Lipstick Rose, I find Guilty Crush to be sweeter. This is also a fragrance that is very easy to fall in love with because, again, once you spray it on skin, you are going to get that lipstick effect, but it is accompanied by a very nicely done fruitiness. And that fruitiness brings a level of sweetness to the game. And it makes that lipstick kind of note a bit sweet, which to me was totally different than any other lipstick note that I've picked up in any other fragrance. So this fragrance is sweet. It opens quite fruity. And the fruitiness that I pick up immediately is from the note of cherry. Now, this cherry to me is not a cherry that takes center stage with the lipstick note because to my nose, if I just sniff the fragrance and I don't spray it on my skin, I'm going to pick up in a very dominant way that lipstick note. But if I spray it on skin, it does open with quite a bit of fruitiness and it is sweet, and the cherry definitely plays a very important role. Now, the cherry's not going to be there for, all of the opening, at least not to my nose. It'll quickly transition. And as a part of that transition and as a part of the opening, I do pick up on a certain kind of like effervescent quality to it. And I think it's because of the note of champagne. Now, I have other fragrances in my collection that have the note of champagne, and I definitely pick up the champagne. But here, it's not that I pick up necessarily the note of champagne. It's like that fizzy quality combined combined with that cherry and combined with that lipstick accord, and also that sweetness and that fruitiness. So all together, it's a very, very pleasant opening. So after that opening, I start to pick up on a bit of woodiness, but to my nose, I don't get a lot of woodiness. I just get like a little bit of a woodiness in the background of all the other notes that are actually in the front, because after the opening, the cherry, it's not that it disappears, but it does fall into the background with those woody notes, and then it gives way to the rose, and the rose becomes quite dominant in the fragrance. But of course, the lipstick note at all times continues to be center stage and sweet. And then of course, there's the vanilla, and the vanilla just does an incredibly beautiful number on this fragrance. I tell you, this is a very, very different lipstick note kind of fragrance, and I am here for it. At the dry down, you are going to get a powdery kind of finish with this fragrance. But you know, guys, even though I get that lipstick accord and I get the florals and I get the fruitiness, the interesting part is that this fragrance remains fresh all throughout. It's a very like fresh and clean. I don't know how else to explain it, but it is like a fresh and clean type of feel while being an incredibly beautiful fragrance. The other thing that has me quite impressed about it is the performance. Oh my goodness. So this fragrance, at least to my nose, when I first spray it, it comes across as bordering on loud, not necessarily beast mode, because this is not a beast mode fragrance in my opinion, but in the opening, it can be quite loud. So if you are going to try this fragrance, I highly recommend that you do not overspray, because that opening and for the first 2+ hours is quite strong. So the projection is strong. This is also a fragrance that is going to get you compliments. It does have a moderate sillage, because I find that the sillage is not too loud after that 2+ hour mark, but it will continuously give you sniffs of the fragrance throughout the day. And whenever you're around someone, they are definitely going to smell you, but in a very smooth way. I just think that this fragrance has been done exquisitely. I think that they really hunker down on that lipstick accord, giving us a fragrance that I haven't really tried any other fragrance to date where I find that the lipstick accord has been done so nicely. And I keep repeating that because that lipstick note or accord for most people is a deal breaker. But with this fragrance, I think you will be perfectly fine. It's a fragrance that I really think that you can pull off all throughout the year. So for any season, truly any occasion, and I really believe that because of that lipstick accord, it would be a 25+ fragrance, but anybody at any age would probably be able to get away with this one without a problem. To me, this is not a unisex fragrance. This is definitely feminine. It has a very beautifully feminine feel to it, which we'll talk about in a minute. This fragrance also has no oud, and like I said before, I really do think that it would be fit for all ages, even though because of that lipstick accord, it may be best suited for 25+. But let's talk about the feel of this fragrance. So the feel of this fragrance is all about this very beautiful individual, extremely beautiful. Have you ever encountered someone that is so beautiful? They have like angelic eyes and their entire aura is just of beauty, and you can't stop looking at them because they're mesmerizing with their smooth and their beautiful angelic kind of beauty, like a beautiful soul, beautiful inside, beautiful on the outside. That is the kind of feel that this fragrance will give you. It will make you feel not fairy-like, but very kind of angelic. So this is a fragrance that I really, really believe is one that you would like. But although I think that it is a safe blind buy if you are into lipstick note type fragrances, I still think that it is best that you try it before you decide to pick it up. So try and get yourself a decant, or go and sniff it somewhere, or get yourself a sample. But I really, really think that this is an exceptionally done lipstick accord fragrance primarily, and I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump into this next one, because I think that of all the fragrances that we're going to discuss today, this is probably the most hyped of all the fragrances, and I'm talking about Carioca Heart. So this fragrance, of course, was also launched in 2024. And this is one that I absolutely love to sniff. If I had to pick a phrase to really describe this one, I would say that this is alive and vibrant, but not loud. This fragrance is all about the tropical vibe. And amongst all of the notes that I shared with you, the ones that I primarily pick up are the mango, the pineapple, and that rum. But the interesting thing is, there's two very interesting things about this fragrance. The first one is that although I do pick up on the note of rum, for some reason the fragrance doesn't come across as boozy necessarily to me. I just really pick up on the note of rum. And with the mix of the other notes, it's almost like I'm getting like a tropical drink. So although this fragrance opens quite fruity and sweet, and it immediately gives you that tropical feel and tropical, very strong tropical vibe, it is also fresh, which I absolutely love. It has quite a bit of vanilla, but the vanilla is not super sweet and it's not cloying in any way because, again, the fragrance remains fresh all throughout the olfactory journey and the wear. Part of that freshness comes from citrusy notes, and I also pick up on a tad bit of woodiness. Not a lot of woodiness, guys. What I do pick up more of is that ambery quality. It is definitely, to my nose, an ambery fragrance that has a very strong tropical vibe. To me, as soon as I sniff this fragrance, it just transports me to a very, very tropical setting. Earlier, I said that there are two very interesting things about this fragrance. Well, the second one is related to performance. So this fragrance is not beast mode, but this fragrance will give me a full day wear without having to overspray and without any type of issue. But here's the thing. This is not a fragrance that has, at least on my skin, it doesn't have a very strong projection during the first couple of hours. It has a strong projection during the first hour. But after that first hour, it does become a scent bubble. But the scent bubble is not very strong. But for some reason, the sillage is very strong in this fragrance. This is a fragrance that I would say lingers. Like, the specialty in the performance of this fragrance and the way that it performs is that it lingers. It'll leave not just a trail, but it'll leave, like, if there's like a soft breeze, you will get a whiff of this fragrance. If people are around you, they will get it. So this is a fragrance that after that, I would say first hour of a strong projection becomes a scent bubble. The scent bubble is not very strong. And then it does become a skin scent around, I would say, the third hour on my skin. But again, that skin scent will now take me all throughout the wear of the fragrance, 8+ hours. And all throughout the wear, guys, I get the most awesome, the most gorgeous whiff of the fragrance, and I can smell myself. Not in a strong way, it's like in a very light way. It's almost like you're asking yourself, ooh, I just caught a whiff of something. What is that? And then you remember that you have Carioca heart. That's what I experienced with this fragrance. The feel of this fragrance. The feel of this fragrance is, I think, one of those things that really sets this fragrance apart. So I do have other tropical fragrances in my collection, as I'm sure you do too. But the one thing I can assure you, if you try this fragrance, this one will give you a feel of vibrancy, of being alive and being happy. It's like you wear it in the morning because you're ready to embrace a day that is full of like laughter and energy and music and rhythm. All of those things that are very common to a very good summer holiday, right? So you are just open to experience all of those positive things and positive energy. It is just a delight. This fragrance will immediately put you in that mental frame. So you know how during the winter we're inside and it's cold and you really don't want to go out much, and then in the summer we all start to just go out and we just want to do fun things and go experience different things. This is the fragrance for you, and I think that it is suitable for any occasion, day or night, during the summer and maybe even spring season. This is also a fragrance that I think you could pull it off during the fall, especially if you live in an area where it's not very, very cold during the fall. But I would not use it for an evening occasion during the fall. This would be more for the day. This is definitely not a fragrance that I would pull during the winter because I am telling you, it is such a tropical feel. But if you're going on a vacation, like if you where you live it's winter, but you're going on vacation to where it's warm, then this is the perfect fragrance for you because it will keep you in that tropical feel and tropical vibe. It is a very vibrant and alive feel kind of fragrance. This fragrance has absolutely no oud. I really believe that it is suitable for all ages, and I wouldn't say that this is a feminine fragrance. I have heard a couple of people say that they think that this is just a feminine fragrance. I think that this is unisex, leaning heavy to the feminine side, and I give this one a 9 out of 10. So this next fragrance is one that, of course, as soon as I mention it, you will know that it was extremely hyped. And let's just talk about it because I have quite a lot to say about this one. And I'm speaking about KAYALI's Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar. So let's talk about the phrase that for me would define this fragrance, and this would not be a phrase. This is more like a paragraph. It's almost like a story. So for me, this fragrance is all about maybe someone that works at a fair and they operate the cotton candy machine. Now, you know how the cotton candy machine, they just twirl with the stick that's going to be in the cotton candy. And if you take a piece of that cotton candy, once you get it, it'll leave like a sticky sensation, and it'll also leave a sticky feel. And there's a scent that comes along with that on your fingers. That is what I get from this fragrance. It's that whole feel of being in a fair, picking up my cotton candy, starting to eat it, getting that stickiness around my lips, getting that stickiness on my fingers. That is what I get from this fragrance. And that smell is exactly what I pick up. But the dominant notes for me are all about that pear in the opening, which comes across really, really dominant and strong, at least to my nose. And I also get that vanilla cream. I get some bubble gum, and the bubble gum is like the type of bubble gum for me is like a bazooka type of scent bubble gum. It's not like a pink, I can't remember the name of the gum. For me, it is like bazooka, not bubble yummy or something like that. No, it's like bazooka. And I also get the rock sugar, the sugar when you go to an upscale kind of coffee shop, or maybe at home you have that rock sugar that, it comes in a stick and you use it to stir your coffee and sweeten it. That rock sugar, I get that scent also. And then I also get the patchouli. Now, the patchouli does not add creaminess, not at least to my nose, to this fragrance. But if I had to say who the stars are for this fragrance, I would say that the vanilla is key in this fragrance. Like the vanilla brings a level of sweetness that is added to by all the other notes. But I would say that vanilla is really center stage in this fragrance. And I love how it's been done. I've heard people say that this fragrance was not exactly what they expected, but for me, when I first sniffed it, I thought to myself, oh yeah, this is definitely vanilla candy rock sugar. The other interesting thing that I love about this fragrance is that although it has all that vanilla and it is a sweet fragrance, guys, because this is about the sweetness, what I love about it is that although we have all that sugar, that sweetness, that vanilla, and you have some fruitiness, this fragrance also remains fresh on my skin all throughout the wear. At no point is it cloying in any way. It is just perfect. And it also has a bit of an aquatic quality. I do get a powdery dry down. And I would think that the patchouli would have contributed to my picking up on a bit more woodiness, but no guys, no, I'm not getting much of that. This fragrance for me is all about the vanilla and the sugar and that bit of fruitiness, because in the opening, I do get the pear. The opening of this fragrance is absolutely beautiful and exquisite. I think this has been done in such an incredibly beautiful way. And then that note of bubblegum, which adds to that sweetness, is just so real. But at the end, guys, what I really get from this fragrance, again, is that cotton candy. If I had to define the feel of this fragrance, this is all about an individual who is very flirty. They play around all the time and make no excuses for it. You know, I could probably envision this individual with like like a lollipop in their mouth, you know, one of those lollipops that in the center have bubble gum, you know, just like licking on their lollipop while flirting and looking around, and just, you know, they know what they're doing, but they're having fun because they're all about being flirty, spontaneous, and fun. That is the feel that you get from this fragrance. You're going to be not necessarily a troublemaker, but you are definitely flirting, you're being spontaneous, and you're just here to have fun. And in the process, you're having your cotton candy. This is definitely a fragrance that is a safe blind buy, as long as you are okay with a heavy vanilla, which most people are, but extremely sweet kind of fragrance that is not cloying. I think that this is perfect for the spring and summer season, but I can also see myself pulling it and layering during the fall season. I'm not sure that I would pull it during the winter, but I for sure would use it spring, summer, and fall. This has no oud, and I think this is perfect for all ages. One word of caution is that I think some will feel that it is a bit juvenile. I don't think it is juvenile at all. I just think that it sets a mood, like I said before, and it's all about being flirty and having tons of fun. As far as performance, this is a fragrance that during the first hour doesn't give me a strong projection, but gives me good projection. No matter what I've tried, without overspraying though, it will give me 5 hours on skin, and that is it. Now, if I overspray, it will extend a little bit more. The projection does go up to maybe 90 minutes in a kind of strong mode. But the good news is that what this one really does is have an excellent sillage, because people will definitely sniff you. This is not a fragrance that announces you're coming into a room, but it is definitely a fragrance that does the job of keeping you smelling beautiful and delicious and pulling attention with your fragrance. All in all, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful launch from KAYALI, and I'm so glad that I picked it up and that I picked up the big bottle. You know, the most recent launch from KAYALI, I'm also absolutely obsessed with, you know, Vacay in a bottle, and I'm hoping that they come out with bottles this size, because I probably would pick them all up. But this one, I am so glad that I also picked it up, because this is a very, very nicely done sugar, candy, vanilla type of fragrance, and I give it an 8 out of 10. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna let you know that these next 3 fragrances, I am absolutely obsessed. I mean, I am just absolutely in love. I've been in love since first sniff, and I am obsessed with them. I do love the 3 that I just discussed with you, but these next 3, it's a different level of love because I'm obsessed with them. The first one that I want to talk to you about is Jean Paul Gaultier's latest flanker from his Scandal line, and this is Scandal Absolu. Now, let me just start by saying, guys, that I am loving this bottle. I'm sure that some of you probably have other flankers from this collection, but the interesting part is that this is my first one ever. Yes, as unbelievable as that may sound, I had never picked up a Scandal. But I'm going to tell you right now that I have and I am enjoying this fragrance so much that I may have to pick up a couple of the others that I had heard in the past were really excellent fragrances. Now, this one, if I had to define it in one phrase, I'm going to tell you right now that this would be the compliment magnet. Wow. This is not a fragrance that you can wear for a day and not get multiple compliments. People are going to know that you are wearing this fragrance because they will be asking you. It's almost from the moment I enter a room. Wow. The first compliment that I received was when I first sprayed it, when I first received it, my daughter immediately said, "Wow, that smells really good, Mom. What is that?" And of course, I was hesitant to tell her what it was because now she wants one. So maybe for her birthday in September, I'll get her this one and a couple of others from this group that she is really, really loving. She's loving the KAYALI one, by the way. But this fragrance is all about tuberose. But here's the thing, before you click away because you do not like tuberose, let's talk about that note in this fragrance, because I am a true tuberose lover, as I'm sure most of you know at this point. And I just really want to know. I wish that I could meet with the perfumer to ask several questions, because I want to know how they did this in such an exquisitely smooth way. This is the type of tuberose fragrance that I dare say, even if you're not into tuberose, you may end up liking, because although to my nose, I pick up on the tuberose clearly from the first moment I spray it all throughout the wear of the fragrance, I can tell you that the tuberose has been blended and has been done so smoothly that it's not going to be one that's going to be overpowering or obnoxious. Now, I have other fragrances in my collection that I absolutely love, and Love Tuberose from Amouage continues to be my top tuberose fragrance. But this one may very well debunk that Amouage fragrance from its #1 spot, because this is, when I tell you, perfection. Now, this is supposed to be a tuberose gourmand fragrance, which I totally agree it definitely is. But let me tell you, what I'm picking up is, in addition to the tuberose, which is the star, I am picking up on the fig, which we'll talk about in a minute. But a note that I did not see disclosed, but that I'm picking up clearly, is the note of vanilla. As I said before, this is a fragrance that opens up with quite a bit of tuberose, like immediately, but the tuberose is coming across immediately as sweet, very sweet, which is a very, very welcome. I guess that's why they call it a tuberose gourmand, but it is just absolutely beautiful. And then all along, I am picking up on the fig in the opening. And let's talk a little bit about the fig, because the fig note is one that some people really are not into, but much like the tuberose, I'm telling you, this fragrance has been blended so beautifully that it doesn't stick out. There's nothing screechy that sticks out or that is not in line or being a team player in the final effect and, performance of this fragrance. I just absolutely love the way that they've done the tuberose and the way that they've brought in the fig to give it, in my opinion, a bit more character and pizzazz. But then there's also that vanilla, which they have not disclosed, but I am picking up vanilla. I am picking up on a bit of woodiness, but I can't really distinguish what it is. But the woodiness is always in the background, and it's very kind of faint to my nose, because again, this is all about the tuberose and the fig, and for my nose, that vanilla. There's also like a tad of an animalic quality to the fragrance that for me just like grounds the fragrance and gives it even more character. And at the dry down, you are going to get a powdery fragrance, but not very powdery, nothing cloying, nothing offensive, just perfect. This fragrance is, in my opinion, a very safe blind buy if you are a tuberose fragrance lover. If you are not a tuberose fragrance lover, I definitely suggest, no matter what you hear, because I'm sure other people are loving this fragrance because it really is that great. But I really recommend that you get yourself a decant or a sample. But if you are a tuberose lover and you don't mind a fig note in a fragrance, you are going to fall head over heels for this fragrance, truly. This is a fragrance that has no oud and I think is perfect for 25 plus. Now let's talk about the feel of this fragrance. So for me, this fragrance evokes a feel of someone who is on a mission. Like they know exactly what they want, they're going for it, and they're going for it boldly, making no excuses, being respectful along the way, but they are on their mission. And if others provide unsolicited opinions, they do listen, but they are so focused. They continue on their mission regardless. That is the feel that I get from this fragrance. Is it one that energizes you like a couple of the others that I've talked about earlier? It does energize you, but in a different kind of way. It energizes you like to pursue right? While the others are just energizing you for you to have a good time. This to me is not really a summer fragrance. This is an all year fragrance. So you can pull it off during the summer, spring, fall, winter. This is truly one that you could probably also make your signature scent if you are into tuberose fragrances. This smells really, really beautiful, guys. It does not give me designer vibe at all. It is truly a fragrance that I would have compete against some of my very best niche, Western niche fragrances. I mean, for me to bring up Love Tuberose, that's a lot, because to me that has been done masterfully. But I am telling you, this fragrance is truly exceptional. When it comes to performance, I am loving the performance. It does give me good performance all day. But the showstopper when it comes to performance in this fragrance is the projection and the sillage. I get a very strong projection during the first almost 3 hours, and then it does become a skin scent. But the skin scent is a strong skin scent that if I overspray, it'll kind of like make me feel a certain kind of way, because the whiffs that you get of the fragrance are pretty strong. This is definitely a very strong sillage fragrance because, again, this is a compliment magnet. There's no way you're going to wear this fragrance, even if you don't like it. If you wear this fragrance, you're going to get compliments. And you're also going to get people asking you what you're wearing because they're interested in trying it themselves. Without a question, this is definitely a feminine fragrance. And like I said before, you can wear it during all seasons, but also for any occasion, day or night. This is not one that, of course, I would take to the gym or any type of activity where I feel that I'm going to perspire, because again, this is not a weak fragrance. This fragrance definitely has a presence, and I'm just concerned that it may kind of choke you if you start perspiring and you've sprayed, or yet even worse, oversprayed this fragrance. All in all, guys, this is a fragrance that I highly recommend, and I really am curious, have you gotten your nose on it? Have you tried it? But I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. So let's just jump right into this fragrance, because I am absolutely obsessed and loving this one, and it's Moresque Perpetual. So guys, let me just start by telling you, if I had to pick a phrase to define this fragrance, I would say, all hail the king. Wow. So this fragrance came out in 2024, and I did see some sneak peeks, and I knew that it was coming out, and I had a chance to take a look at the note structure, and I knew that it was going to be a cherry-centric type of fragrance. And whenever a fragrance has the note of cherry, I take note, because personally, I think that the note of cherry is one that is not very easy to get right. It really depends on the kind of cherry. It depends on the notes that are involved in the fragrance. There's just so many variables when it comes to the note of cherry. And I have been disappointed by quite a number of cherry fragrances in the past, including Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. I think it's a lovely fragrance, but it's not at the top of my list. I also have Electric Cherry, and I have Cherry Smoke. And of those three, just so you know, I would say that Cherry Smoke is my favorite. But there is a cherry fragrance in my collection. There's actually two that I absolutely love. And one I just talked about in a recent video, which is Duquesa from Gritty. And the other one is Bodacious from Bodacia the Victorious. Wow. These fragrances are the two that I want to talk to you about today as I talk about Perpetual, because these two are not the same at all, but give me the absolute almost same vibe. And I think it's because of the way that they've done the note of cherry. Now, one more thing that I did want to say is I am sure the reason I mentioned Tom Ford is because I am sure that in the comment section, someone will ask me, how does it compare to Lost Cherry from Tom Ford? Because as soon as there's a cherry fragrance, people immediately jump to that. Please do not even mention Tom Ford Lost Cherry to me when it comes to speaking about this fragrance, because my goodness, I already told you, all hail the king. So the notes that are dominant to my nose with this fragrance are the cherry, the ginger in the opening is very, very present. There's no mistaking that bit of spiciness that the ginger brings into the mix. Now, this fragrance opens up very, very sweet. It is not an excessively sweet fragrance, but it is a very sweet fragrance. It has quite a bit of vanilla. There's that cherry, and I'm going to talk about the cherry in more detail in a minute. The fragrance does have a warm, spicy kind of quality to it, and I'm pretty sure that it's brought on by the ginger, because the ginger is a note that to my nose opens this fragrance along with the cherry, and wow, what a combination. So there's a bit of nuttiness in the mix of this fragrance, and at the dry down, you are going to have a powdery fragrance. Not very powdery, but it's not a tad powdery. No, it's a powdery fragrance. Now let's talk about the cherry. So if you are a cherry fragrances lover and you've tried Bodacious from Bodacia the Victorious, you know that the cherry in this fragrance has been done masterfully. This fragrance to me is a masterpiece. Like, I love this fragrance, right? But the cherry in this fragrance is a bit dark and very intense. It's a very kind of dark cherry, and you know, this is a serious fragrance. This is a commanding boss level, in my opinion, type of fragrance. But in Perpetual, there is a level of freshness brought on by the ginger, in my opinion, which also adds that warm spiciness that you do not find in Bodacious. So the reason I'm comparing them is because these two are the closest that I could find in all my cherry fragrances. I couldn't compare Duquesa to this one, but the way that the cherry has been done in Perpetual reminds me immediately, as soon as I first sniffed it, it brought to mind Bodacious. And they are not the same fragrance, but they do give me a very similar vibe. Now, what I will tell you is that if you as a cherry fragrance lover had been considering for a while picking up Bodacious and it was a budget consideration, or you were just waiting for a better deal, I can tell you that if you go with this one, you are getting something that you will not regret whatsoever. And let me tell you what I also am absolutely loving about Perpetual in my collection is that, to me, Perpetual is a year-round fragrance. It is perfect for the summer, spring, fall, winter. With Bodacious, I really reserve that fragrance specifically for the fall and winter seasons because, like I said, it is quite dark and deep and dense. The level of freshness and airiness in this fragrance is just exquisite. I absolutely love the way that they've put this together. This is a fragrance that to me is definitely unisex, but leaning a bit to the feminine side. I can definitely see a man pulling this off, but it definitely does lean to the feminine side. There is absolutely no oud here, and I would say that this is best suited for 25 plus. I can't really imagine someone that's 21, 22, or in their late teens really pulling off this fragrance very well. But hey, whatever you want to wear, whatever works for you. I personally think it's best suited for 25 plus. As far as the feel of this fragrance is, to me, about someone that is very gentle and calm in their ways. So they are known as a very gentle and calm type of person. But don't get it twisted, because they are also very firm and can be quite assertive. So it's just one of those fragrances that, in my opinion, gives you the best of both worlds, because while Bodacious, I can tell you, Bodacious is a fragrance that commands. I told you, it's like boss level fragrance in my opinion. This one, if the boss has a style where they come across as a bit demure, gentle and calm all of the time, but then there is that not necessarily other side, but whenever they feel that they need to bring out their firm and assertive side, they exercise it without any problem or hesitation. That's what I get from this fragrance. I get that duality, I guess, let's call it, right? This fragrance, I tell you guys, performs very well. It gives me a full day wear. It's not a beast mode fragrance. It does get you compliments, and it is one that does have a moderate sillage. This one has not gotten me as many compliments as Scandal Absolu because this is a more demure fragrance with that freshness, but the cherry is so fruity and so juicy and so perfectly done and so present. You know, it can't help but attract attention. I give this one a 9.5 out of 10. All right, guys, so this next one, I have to tell you, and some people may not agree, but when I tell you this fragrance is just unbelievable. To me, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a masterpiece. And I'm speaking about Christian Provenzano's Rocca. Now this fragrance, guys, you know, by the way, I have done an unboxing of all of the fragrances that I've shared with you today. And if you want to see the unboxing for each fragrance and take a look at the bottle in more detail and how the atomizer works, it's all part of my unboxing shorts. There's a short for every single one of these fragrances. So just go ahead and visit the shorts page of the channel and you will find them all there, because this one is definitely one that you really want to catch that unboxing. So of all of the ones that we've discussed today, this is definitely the most expensive, but I tell you, it is worth every piece of hype, in my opinion, that it has received. It's not just a beautiful bottle. It's not just Christian Provenzano. It's definitely a very special fragrance. If I had to put it in one phrase, I would say, when looking for the definition of perfection, you found it. So from the notes that I shared, let me tell you what's dominant to my nose. So with this fragrance, I have to tell you that the star of this fragrance to my nose is the note of caramel and raspberry. Raspberry is a note in this fragrance that is present for me, guys, from the first moment I sniff it all throughout the wear of the fragrance. And the caramel is quite dominant and is always present. The caramel is like a creamy, fresh caramel. It's not like a burnt or reheated. Let's say that you have a pot with caramel at home and you keep reheating it every time you make, you know, another dessert or you top another dessert. No, this is a fresh, creamy, beautiful, almost bordering on buttery type of caramel. And then that raspberry, it is so juicy, so fresh, just exquisite. Other notes that I also get quite dominant to my nose are the saffron, which we're going to talk about in a minute, the rose, and of course, the vanilla. This fragrance to my nose opens very fruity and dominant. Even as I'm just sniffing it now, dominant for me is that raspberry. But in the opening, it's not that the fruitiness is just marked by the raspberry. No, I can tell there's other fruits here, but the raspberry shines through. It is also a fragrance that is sweet. It is not very sweet. It also, very interestingly to me, there's a citrus quality to it that I just can't really explain, because it's not coming in my nose. It's not coming from that fruitiness that I pick up in the opening, but it's a citrusy quality that I pick up all throughout the olfactory journey and throughout the wear of the fragrance. Does that make the fragrance fresh to my nose? No. To me, this is not necessarily a fresh fragrance. It's not cloying or anything like that, but it's not a fresh fragrance. There's also like a mossy kind of earthy quality, which adds a ton of character to this fragrance, and which I absolutely love. I think that is the shifting point, in my opinion, to this fragrance. It's also a very ambery fragrance, and warm spicy with that saffron, because the saffron is definitely one that you will pick up. It's also one that has all of those florals, but to me the floral, just like the raspberry, sticks out from the fruitiness. When it comes to the florals, for me it's more about the rose than anything else. I do pick up some of the other florals, but the rose is really in the center of it. So I find it very interesting that you have that rose with that raspberry and then the caramel. It's just, and then those citrusy notes, and then that like a bit of muskiness and that mossy, earthy quality. It is just, when I tell you, absolute perfection. This fragrance has no oud, but I do think it does require a bit of maturity to pull it off. So I would say that this is best suited for 30 plus. This is a fragrance that you can make your signature scent, because I will be pulling this all throughout the year and at that price point for sure. But this is one that I definitely think you can use any season, any occasion, but I also think it is best suited for special events. It doesn't have to be a formal or black tie or gala type of event, but I would say that this is not a fragrance that I would necessarily pull and use to go to the supermarket or to just run errands with my kids or something like that. No, this is definitely a fragrance that I will wear when I'm putting it on, when I'm getting dressed. And if it's your signature scent, I think it would do very well in the office. If you're in a very senior role, I think it would be absolutely exquisite and will definitely get you compliments when you're in meetings. This is definitely a feminine fragrance. And as far as performance, the performance of this fragrance is stellar. While it's not a loud fragrance, because you spray it and it's not like loud, this will give me a full day's wear. It's an 8+ for sure. It does have a moderate projection during the first, I would say, 2.5 hours, but it does also have a moderate sillage. But that sillage will linger and linger and linger and go on. And if you spray it on your clothes, it will be there forever. So this fragrance is all about an individual that is very exposed, very worldly, very well-traveled, someone who does not dwell in a box at all. They are completely and all about being an out-of-the-box type of individual. So in other words, they have like an out-of-the-box approach to life in general. They also observe more and like talk less, and overall they exude this aura of like sensuality. There's just something so very sensual about this fragrance. I think that it is a fragrance that if you are a serious fragrance collector, you at least have to get your nose on. I don't recommend that you blind buy this fragrance only because of the price point. I just don't think that's wise. I think you should get yourself a decant or a sample prior to picking it up. But if you are a serious fragrance collector, you have to get your nose on this. You have to try it on skin, because you don't want to miss out on this one. And needless to say, I give this fragrance a 10 out of 10. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I hope that this was enjoyable for you guys. I am so happy with all of these purchases. There's a couple, I've been picking up quite a number of fragrances lately, and there's a couple that haven't worked for me, and I will be speaking about those in a different video. But I did want to come and share these reviews with you because you have been asking for them, and I've taken my sweet time because I really wanted to make sure that I gave you a thorough review, because these are not inexpensive fragrances. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments section. As always, thank you so much for hanging with me, and I will see you in the next video.